Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Core Gaming channel. Today, we are going to start off with, we're going to start off by ending the old Xenonauts 2 campaign. As you can see here, we are looking at, well, I guess it's over there, right? Yeah, over there. That's all weird because it's on my list. And sorry. Anyway, we are going to start by going over the changes that were released in Milestone 3.0.8 in the new Xenonauts 2 Milestone update. So, we are going to be ending our campaign on Milestone 2 as there were some really significant changes that were completed on Milestone 3, and I'm really kind of excited to see what those changes are and how they change things overall. I mean, I haven't done enough that I can really say that I truly understand Milestone 2, so some of these may go over my head, but I did want to go through them just so that we kind of understood where we're going to from what we had, and how some of these things might make a big difference in the campaign. Let's go ahead and take a look here. So you can see already that we do have some experimental stuff here. We probably won't be going into these experimental branches. I'm fairly certain that they're just going to be, the load times are going to be a little bit worse. And they may be better based on what I've read a little bit, but nonetheless. So we're just going to go on to 3.08, 3.0.8 right now. So some of the key changes that we saw. This is a content-focused patch from what I've seen. So it's obviously a collection of the few things that they've done through these different experimental milestones. But we can look at new pieces of content in the form of the Cruiser UFO, which has two different interior layout variants, alien fusion weapons, Xenonaut fusion weapons as a result of that, the Gemini Interceptor, and the Pegasus dropship. Both of those, I believe, for the Xenonaut side of things. And then an upgraded version of the Mars. Already forget what the thing is, but the robot, and it's called the Air Race, which is really cool. Another thing is that they are updating the engine to Unity 2022, and so this is a major performance improvement, which I'm really excited. And they did say that the load times should now be reduced by about 30% across all sections of the game, and another 10 to 20% in Milestone 4. I don't know when Milestone 4 is coming out. I haven't kept up. I haven't seen like a Discord thing or anything like that, but that's really exciting in and of itself. Performance was a little bit lacking in this, especially considering that I was getting the same loading times on Warhammer Demon Hunters as I was on this game, and Demon Hunters is significantly, it looks a lot better. Let's say that. So the tactical mission briefing is also shown on the loading screen rather than the start of the mission, which gets you into the action faster once the load's complete. So that's kind of cool. We will be seeing that. And some other stuff, AI improvements, which is always an improve. I love AI improvements. Whenever they can do that and it actually works, I really do like it. So civilians are now less suicidal, which we definitely experienced in that. Hopefully they start running away from the aliens rather than directly in front of the aliens. And I mean, I won't complain that some of them did act as some very useful shot blockers, but nonetheless, yeah. So melee units, especially Reapers, which we haven't encountered yet, but I know that they're in there, should make better decisions, hopefully more tactical, I would suppose. I don't know. AI units will no longer just stand in fire and or smoke until they die or pass out. That's a great improvement. One that I'm probably going to be disappointed. I'm like, oh man, they used to just be that easy. But in this case, either way, it's going to be a good thing. And the AI will now open doors even if the tile on the other side is blocked by another unit, allowing them to shoot at Xenonauts camping doors. Okay, so that was something that I wasn't aware of that you could do, but it is kind of interesting that you can now, that you would have been able to in Milestone 2 camp these doors. So good to know. Cleaner reinforcements will now act more aggressively on most maps and move quickly towards your dropship and extraction area. Okay, so that's something we actually noticed in the Eliminate VIP mission. The cleaners didn't seem to actually chase us. They just kind of moved towards the center of the map. And that was interesting, kind of weird. So that's a really cool addition to the AI. New thing in the form of bleeding wound healing and bleeding aliens. Okay. So apparently the aliens did not suffer bleeds like the Xenonauts did. So this is now a new thing. However, apparently civilians, which are those giant reptiles, do heal them immediately. And there's now a heal chance to all bleeding wounds, which is excellent because that was one thing I noticed. It was an indefinite bleed And while I understand that from a conceptual standpoint, sometimes that is a little bit difficult to handle from a gameplay perspective. So having the chance to kind of spontaneously end that debuff is really, really nice. Each bleeding wound now has a 25% chance of healing and disappearing after it inflicts damage at the end of the turn. Very cool. And this I actually really like. The unconscious units will now continue to suffer damage, and any bleeding wounds they suffered while conscious may die as a result. So if one of your units gets stunned and is bleeding, you will have to, support them in some way or another, or hope that they, just don't bleed out, which is also possible. Usability, pre-mission soldier equip and arrangement screen. That is kind of nebulous. I'm sure we'll see it as soon as we get in there. So that'll be interesting. It allows you to easily switch back and forth between screens prior to launching a dropship. That was one thing I noticed, was that if you were going to launch a dropship, you couldn't essentially update things very easily. So hopefully that's going to be really cool. And then sell junk items. So we've also added a button on the base store screen that will sell junk items, e.g. those that are not used in research and engineering projects. So that's kind of cool. It says they'll expand that in the future, and I'm looking forward to it. All right. Wow, there's so much stuff. Abduction missions have been updated to address player concerns. They're now explained better and no longer end immediately when the timer expires, but the panic gain or reduction of the mission is now tied to the number of freed civilians. So the result should feel less arbitrary. Now that the civilian AI is improved, you're also expected to protect the civilians, and you will get reduced rewards if they die. Okay, that's a little dangerous considering you just said you fixed it, and I don't know if it's actually fixed or not. But I do think that was something that was interesting. Just people were dying left, right, and center. It was like, oh, no big deal. So interesting. Let's see. The timer on abduction tubes has been reduced by 2 turns, from 8 turns to 6 turns. Okay, I can see that. Teleport animation when the tubes disappear. You still gain alien alloys for each abduction tube you disable, but the panic increase or reduction from the mission depends on how many of the 10 civilians you rescue. Okay, so if you don't attempt the mission at all, you get plus 20 panic, plus 2 for each civilian remaining, and minus 2 for each civilian freed. If there's a civilian freed who then gets killed, you get 0 panic. So, yep, I can definitely see where the suicidal AI would have made that almost impossible, because you can't control them. It's whatever. But next up, the data raid missions. So these are the missions where you have to capture data sticks from the cleaner office. Victory is triggered by the number of computers you've interacted with rather than how many data sticks you've brought back to the dropship. We've added a new UI element to show how many data sticks are being carried by each soldier. That's excellent. I love seeing that. The objectives now show how many turns are remaining until the enemy reinforcements start appearing. Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Even in my limited playthrough, like 6 episodes of Xenonauts 2, I did lose track of when these timers were going. Enemy timers reduced by 1 turn unless the mission is encountered in month 1, so make it a little bit harder. Okay. Next up, we have the extract VIP missions. So at the start of the mission, the camera shows the empty dropship you're trying to reach before panning to the starting position of your soldiers. That's just a nice quality of life thing. VIP is now automatically added to your team at the start of the mission rather than the player having to click on them. I didn't notice that, but that's a good change. VIP now has 50 time units rather than 40. Excellent. I do like that. I even made a comment on that. And the enemy reinforcements timer is reduced by 1 turn. Objective now shows how many turns remaining until the enemy reinforcements start appearing. Excellent. All right. Soldier rescue missions. Not every player understood that you were expected to leave 3 slots in the dropship on this mission, so you had to pick up the 3 soldiers that needed to be rescued. To make this more obvious, we've added placeholder soldiers in the dropship that fill these slots. Okay, that's cool. Oh, and you can view their stats prior to the mission. That's really cool, actually. Okay. And nice. Okay. Eliminate VIP missions. On Eliminate VIP missions, the camera will now pan to the VIP and show a message reading VIP sighted when you see the target. It will also show a VIP eliminated or VIP stunned message at the appropriate points. Objectives now show how many turns remaining until enemy reinforcements start appearing. Excellent. All right, we found that soldiers were becoming too strong too quickly in previous builds, and this problem was just getting worse as we extended the length of the campaign. We've therefore taken several steps to slow down soldier progression a little. Starting values are now capped at 65 instead of 70. That's good to know. Soldiers are now privates rather than corporals. Reduce the speed at which soldiers gain combat experience to about 60%. Wow, that's a big nerf of the previous level. Training speed of the training room has been halved. And soldiers you can rescue from the soldier rescue missions now have 3+ to all their base stats, in addition to the 3 stats they get for being a sergeant rather than a private. Okay. Interesting. I'll be fascinated to see how that works, because that certainly didn't help me in my campaign, but that was mostly because I was bad. Anyway. All right, next up, strategic layer balancing. Some of this stuff I'm just going to read out. I'm not going to necessarily know the significance of it, so I do apologize in advance. Like I said, I wanted to get onto this milestone really as quickly as we can, because it's new content. It's just the better version of the game. And if I had played through the entire thing by that time, Milestone 4 would have been released and would have just been a mess. So, in any case, reduce the completion time of duration of crash sites is where we start. Reduced from 72 hours to 32 hours. Okay, so you have less time to get there. Reduce the completion time of the initial research project, so you can now begin work on the new research immediately after winning the Atlas base mission. Okay, that was a nice quality of life thing. Delayed the first possible alien retaliation mission, as it would frequently spawn in the same wave as the first destroyer. So the player had often just fought a battle and had a damaged squad. Good, nice. Reduce the number of cleaners in the cleaner base to make it more manageable if you manage to unlock it early. Wraith destroyers now contain 1 fewer enemy. Increased alloys gained from observers, abductors, and cruiser UFOs, so makes that a little bit more worth the squeeze, so to speak. Increased alenium and alloys gained from alien base missions by 100%. Okay, so that's very helpful. Warden armors now require 6 alloys to build, up from 4. Okay. Accelerated weapons now require more alloys to build, with the most expensive weapon requiring 6, up from 4. And laser alloys require more alenium and alloys. Laser weapons now require more alloys and alenium. Sorry, I don't know what I was saying there. With the most expensive requiring 6 of each. So a general nerf across the board for improved equipment. So apparently we were getting stuff too early, too quickly. I don't quite know. Never got there, but I understand what they're trying to do there. Swapped the alloys and alenium cost of advanced building upgrades. These generally now require twice as much alenium as they do alloys. Okay, good to know. Construction time of radar array reduced from 20 days to 15 days. Okay, so they definitely want to improve the time that it takes to get a radar array up and running, hopefully so that we can start moving up with our bases as soon as we can, which is nice. I appreciate it. Training center building cost increased by about 100,000 to 350K, and doubled the duration of corpse analysis to engineering projects. Okay. Let's see. Tactical combat balancing. It is no longer possible to see doors opening and closing under fog of war, as this made the position of alien units very obvious. These doors will now only visually update when one of your units sees them. I like that change. Sectons now trigger their psionic triangulation accuracy bonus from being near scions and not by being near other sectons. However, if the scion is killed and no other scion is nearby, the secton will now immediately panic and lose all remaining time units. Using a healing item will no longer trigger enemy reaction fire. That's really cool. That's kind of like the Aegis shield in Warhammer Demon Hunters that allowed you to be a little bit more strategically sound without opening yourself up to some of that risk. So I like that change. Medkit weight increased to 25, up from 15. So, wow. Okay. So that definitely leads us to have some specialized medics, as opposed to everybody having a medkit and then also having, 4 or 5 grenades and a building blowing up thingy. What are they called? C4? I don't know. Reaper zombies now have 70 HP instead of 40 HP. The Mentark can no longer crouch or be suppressed. Slight accuracy reduction on the Mars cannon weapons. I can see that. Those things were incredibly accurate. Alien melee weapons can no longer give units through overdamage. Enabled reaction fire on the various alien melee weapons. Okay, mantids, civilians, reapers, Mentarks, zombies. I did notice that, actually, that none of the civilians that we fought in that one mission were able to fight back. So that's interesting to see. And the air combat balancing. Alien missiles in the air combat now have a 0.35 times damage against air units that can do an evasive roll. This means alien fighters and alien interceptors are now a bit weaker when auto-resolving air combat battles. Reduce construction cost of missiles and torpedoes by 20%. Reduce the upkeep for the Angel and the Phantom. So Angel went down 25K and the Phantom went down 30K. Bomber UFO weapons were updated. The main cannon now fires faster and destroys armor more quickly, and the secondary weapon now has a much smaller fire arc, but can rotate to cover the sides and rear, but not the front of the UFO. Unescorted bombers are now therefore significantly weaker against agile planes like the Phantom, but keeping away from the rotating turret can be more challenging if there are escort UFOs present. Okay. Destroyer UFO increased by 25 HP to 200. Fighter UFO turn rate increased by 50 HP or 50%, excuse me. Fighter cannon armor destruction increased to 2 to 5, up from 0 to 3. And the abductor UFO got a boost of 25 HP to 275. So the abductor cannon range increased by 10%. Armor destruction increased from 1 to 3 to 3 to 5, and the reload time reduced from 0.75 to 0.5 seconds. So the abductor has gotten a significant buff. I think the fighter UFO has as well with that 50% turn rate improvement. The destroyer obviously a little bit with that HP buff, but otherwise it doesn't appear like they buffed it too terribly much. And then let's see what else. Alien interceptor missiles armor destruction increased from 0 to 4 to 3 to 7. All right, and that's kind of all the big changes. There are some minor content changes and a ton of bug fixes. I don't think we're going to go over that. A lot of these are probably a little bit more niche and aren't going to be as relevant to us in this campaign. So in any case, I just wanted to go through some of the big changes that are going to be going on here as we restart our campaign. We're going to be starting with the Milestone 3 update, version 3.0.8. Hopefully this will be just as interesting as the first one. I certainly liked where we got with the first one. We'll be able to take these lessons learned, start over, figure out how to better build this base, build the squad, handle the game itself, and yeah. Alrighty guys, that's going to be all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you with the very first mission of the new campaign here, probably by the end of the day at the time of recording. So see you there. Bye-bye.